Hello everyone, this is Philosophy 72, week 1, and part 1, the beginning of part 1. Remember that there are 3 parts in the semester. Part 1 goes from week 1, from today to week 4, and we are doing Gramsci, speaking about Gramsci, Magritte, Descartes, and Leibniz. But this week, this first week, we are doing Gramsci, Antonio Gramsci, and Magritte. Magritte, we are looking at the painting of the pipe, right? This is not a pipe. You have in the syllabus as well as in on Blackboard, right? An article about this great painting by Magritte. So look at the painting, right, and read the article, and then remember also answer the question. Both do the discussion board entry, right, for this week, and also the journal entry, and both of them should be done by next Monday, September 21st. Okay, so in actually the discussion board entry is about the idea of the self. That's your sense. It's a more informal question about your idea of the self and the other, right? Because remember, the theme of the course is the self, the other, and the world, right? Whereas the journal entry, the first journal entry for this week, is there are 2 questions. One is about the painting by René Magritte about the pipe, and then the other question is about the pages that I asked you to read from Gramsci's selections from right, the prison notebooks. Okay, so and the question, therefore, that with which Gramsci begins this section called the study of philosophy, which is about the idea that ultimately everybody is spontaneously, right, to begin with, a philosopher. Then he goes into the question of common sense, good sense, and so on. In any case, I want, because again, it's more effective if the video that I make is not too long, right? I want to be concise. Again, feel free to contact me with questions and so on. I will not spend much time on the painting by Magritte, but read the article and see also, read in that article that I put on Blackboard. There is that important, in the middle of it, more or less, that important reference to another philosopher, Michel Foucault, who actually wrote a book, a small book called This Is Not a Pipe, on precisely the painting by Magritte. So see what the reference is, what he says, that fundamentally it's not simply the case that, of course, it's not a pipe, right? It's not a pipe because I can't smoke it, because it's the painting of it's an image, a representation of right, a pipe. But the question is also the question of the relationship, the connection between the image of the pipe and the statement underneath. This is not a pipe. There is simply a juxtaposition. There is perhaps no connection whatsoever, or that is precisely the connection that becomes problematic, right, or the lack of connection, what seems to be a contradiction. But as Foucault says, there is no contradiction, because you have one statement on the one hand and an image on the other, so there cannot be a contradiction between these two completely different items. Okay, but in any case, see what that is, and also the word this. What is this? This, because of course the image of the pipe is not a pipe. The painting as such is not a pipe, right? The sentence, the statement, this is not a pipe, is not a pipe. And the word this. What is this? A word that will come back as important for us, especially when we do Leibniz, this and thisness, THIS. NESS, thisness, that you will find as well in the syllabus, I believe, spelled out or in when week. I believe I put it there, but otherwise, in any case, you find it in the reading by Leibniz when we get there, week 3. Okay? In any case, think about this. What is this? This is this, the word this. And let me actually use that word too before we get into Gramsci briefly. Also, say something about the keywords that you find in the syllabus. Okay, metaphysics, ontology, and epistemology. Metaphysics and ontology can be taken as interchangeable, right, or synonyms for the purpose of this class. Metaphysics comes from the Greek meta, is a prefix meaning after, beyond. In physics, we more or less know what physics is. I don't want to go too deep into that, but in any case, everything physical, material, and so on. So metaphysics is what goes beyond that, what comes after that. So metaphysics is really the most foundational field within philosophy. Okay, for example, when you read for next week Descartes, we begin with Descartes, Meditations on First Philosophy. First Philosophy, that's the title, no? In the book by Descartes, is metaphysics. Not first because there is a second and then a third, but first in the sense of most basic, most fundamental. Okay, so metaphysics is, I gave you the definition now, the study of the essence of reality. Think about this. Not simply reality. What is reality? That's already a big problem. But reality and the essence of it. Okay, which means that we already see, and that is one of the most important problems in philosophy, right? Of philosophy, problem of metaphysics, but also, I will say in a moment, epistemology. The idea that when we look at reality, we have always, we are confronted by this gap, if you will. Think about that, this distance, this rift, even, right? I mean, the split between appearance and what we may call essence. Okay, what appears and what actually is. Think about that. At times things appear that are not there, right? I mean, the sunrise, the sunset. I mean, it is not completely false because we can take a picture, put it on right Instagram, Facebook, and so on. So it is true that we had that experience of seeing the sunset, sunrise and sunset, but the sun does not rise. We know, right, as well, and it does not set. Okay, so what is the difference between what we see and what actually is there, between what seems to be the case, what appears, and what in fact is the case? Okay, so this is what ultimately, I'm saying simplistically, right, but this is what metaphysics is, the study not simply of what seems to be, what appears to us, the appearance, like the pipe, it appears to us, and yet this is not, and so on and so forth, right? So the idea is that there is something, if you will, deeper, there is a deeper level, perhaps, and this is, what then metaphysics deals with, the essence of reality. Same with ontology. Ontology is another word coming from the Greek. The word on, O-N, in Greek means being, B-E-I-N-G, very important word in philosophy, in metaphysics. What is being, B-E-I-N-G? That which is. And LOGY, as always, LOGY is a suffix that means the study of, the science of, the discourse about. So ontology is the study of that which is of being. Okay, same as metaphysics, the study of the essence of reality of that which is. Epistemology, very briefly, because I don't want this to be too long. Epistemology, LOGY, again, the study of, right? Episteme, from the Greek, means knowledge. Okay, so it is the study of knowledge, the theory of knowledge. That's what epistemology is. So if metaphysics or ontology, if the question there is what is it, right? So the question about this, what is this? What is it? What is this, right? That's the question of metaphysics, ontology. The question of epistemology is what do I know, right? And how do I know that what I know is actually the case? Because I could be mistaken, and very often I am mistaken. Like again, like if I say that the sun rises, again I am wrong. The sun does not rise, although that's what I see. Okay, so that's think about this. I had to be very, you know, schematic and fast, but I think I am giving you a sense of what it is also to engage in philosophical thinking, to do philosophy, right? To what the task, let's say, of philosophy is, which is to question reality, because reality is more problematic and more complex than we might at first think, at first assume, right? I assume, I think that what I see is what is reality, the truth, and very often, like I said before, I am mistaken, I am deceived, and so on and so forth. And we will go back to this when we do René Descartes, okay, next week. So don't worry about that. But that's, you know, a very important introductory moment. But I want now to move to Gramsci, you know, and I mean, just a few words. Gramsci was an important Italian philosopher of in the 20th century, and he was imprisoned by Mussolini, right? The, you know, the Italian, the fascist, totalitarian fascist regime. You know, and so he spent years, many years in prison, and then he died right after he came out of prison. But you know, he died. So he wrote this huge work, notebooks. It's called the Prison Notebooks, okay? And we have a selection, right, that I put on Blackboard for you, and we read only some pages, okay? And the section that we are dealing with is called precisely the study of philosophy within a larger section called the philosophy of praxis, praxis, coming from the Greek again, practice, right? In any case, I can't go into that too deep now, but you know, read, I actually highlighted just now for you those sections that I believe are more important, those passages that are more important in this short section that I ask you to read from page 626 to page 631. But look, I mean, even at the beginning is very interesting, right? And I read a few lines, and then you do the rest of the reading and the answer, right? I mean, the question, the journal, remember, entry is on both. There are two questions. Again, I'm repeating on Magritte, on the painting by Magritte about the pipe, and on Gramsci. Okay, it is, I'm reading, essential to destroy the widespread prejudice that philosophy is a strange and difficult thing just because it is the specific intellectual activity of a particular category of specialists or of professional and systematic philosophers. So we already know philosophy deals with much more. It is a matter of a question of everyday life, and everybody is, that's the idea here, spontaneously already, always already, one might say, doing philosophy, right? In a sense, I mean, we don't have to take a class in philosophy or be in college to do philosophy. We do philosophy insofar as we think. I mean, there are many ways of thinking, but philosophical thinking is critical thinking. So, but we don't do critical thinking only when we go to school, right? I mean, critical thinking is, you know, to think with a question mark. We'll go back to this next week, but that's what philosophy is children ultimately think about that. Why? Do philosophy in a sense all the time spontaneously, right? The constant asking the question why. There are other questions. I said the question what, the question what do I know, and so on and so forth. Okay, but the question why is very important. We'll go back to that as well. So I'm reading again. I can read the whole thing just to give you a sense of the language, the theme, right? The question that he poses, Gramsci, right? This philosopher from Sardinia. Originally, he was born in, the island in Italy, Sardinia. Then he moved to the continent, and he actually was, one of the founders of the Italian Communist Party, right? In the 20s, and that is in his political activity. That is why the dictator of Italy at the time, Mussolini, had him arrested and put in prison. In any case, so Gramsci continues, it must first be shown that all men, all people, right, are philosophers. In quote, meaning, it's not a question of being a philosophy professor. A philosopher means thinker, right? I mean, everybody is a thinker, everybody thinks, right? So by defining the limits and the characteristics of again, in quote, the spontaneous philosophy, which is proper to everybody. Think about that, what I said just a moment ago. Children, right? I mean, and this is not just, a rhetorical exaggeration, but it is true. I mean, they engage in philosophy in very important ways, right? Actually, to do philosophy is to going back to be like not childish, right? But like a child in a sense, okay? So this philosophy is, he continues, Gramsci, contained in one and then two. One, language itself, which is a totality of determined notions and concepts, and not just words grammatically devoid of content. And he goes back to the question of language as you read, especially the highlighted parts. Almost I highlighted everything in this section, okay? Two, common sense, and then three, common sense and good sense. That's a very interesting distinction that he makes, right? Common sense that also includes, prejudice and something that must perhaps be overcome, and good sense, which is a better than a concept you will find, then popular religion, culture, therefore, also in the entire system of beliefs, superstitions, opinions, and so on. Okay, so in any case, having first shown that everyone is a philosopher, I don't want to be this longer than 20 minutes because I think it's more effective that way, right? Though in his their own way and unconsciously, right? I mean, because then of course one has to become also consciously so, right? I mean, but it is this spontaneous moment and this unconscious often moment, since even in the slightest manifestation of any, I'm reading, intellectual activity whatever in language, there is already contained a specific conception of the world. This is what it is to already have a philosophy. A philosophy is what is your philosophy, meaning what is your conception of the world. What and remember the theme of the class is the self, the other, and the world. The world, right? The self is always within a world and with others. What is the conception of the world that we have at all levels, right? Then the more we study things, the more maybe we know, and some say science and so on. You have to study in order to know. But in any case, whatever the situation, the condition, everybody has a conception of the world, and that conception that can be changed and should be worked on, right? And improved and so on. That is the spontaneous philosophy already to begin with. Okay, so in any case, I hope that I gave you a sense. Continue the reading. Do again write by next Monday, September 21st, both the more informal right, discussion board entry, and the more formal in the sense that it relates to the material more specifically, right, in a more precise way, the journal entry between 1 and 200 words minimum. You can write more. Okay, so thank you, and see you next time. Okay.